Do you wish you could meal plan, but every time you try, you find yourself quitting midweek and ordering takeout? Today, we're going to be talking about a simpler way to eat at home without planning every single meal out. Let's get started.
Welcome to Chronic Illness Moms. If you're more than just a tired mom, I'm talking trying to make it through the day without crashing by noon while raising neurodivergent kids, you're not alone. I'm Ashley, a wife, mom, and certified health coach. I have lived with autoimmune disease and flare-ups that made everyday life feel harder than it should. After years of pushing through and burning out, I learned how much stress, poor sleep, and nervous system overload were driving my symptoms. Everything changed when I started building small, realistic habits that actually supported my body instead of fighting it. In this podcast, you'll learn simple habits that help you to feel better. So pop in your earbuds and take a break from the chaos. It's you time.
Okay, so if you have not listened to last week's Thursday episode, I should say, I'm going to let you know this month we are building a kind of a format for simple ways to eat at home that is going to feel easier, especially when you already have so much on your plate. These are not going to be focusing on creating rigid meal plans. You don't have to do everything perfectly. We're just going to focus on creating small, simple systems that are going to support you in your goal to feel better, be more present, and engage with your kids even whenever you're having a flare or symptoms are hitting you really hard. So this is the second part of that series. And if you have not listened to the first part, go ahead and go back and listen to that. That will be last Thursday's episode. And we're just going to go ahead and dig in. And like I said, if you have listened to last week's episode, then you know that we talked about how stocking your pantry can make eating at home feel easier, not because you're doing more, but because you are making fewer decisions. So today we're going to be building on that, because even with a stocked pantry, there's still this pressure that many moms feel that they should be meal planning, and if they aren't doing it right. And a lot of moms will say things like, I make a meal plan and then I don't want to eat what I had planned out, or my energy changes too much for the meal plan that I created. The other thing is a lot of moms feel guilty. They feel shame for the fact that they cannot stick to that original meal plan. If that's you, I want you to hear this. The problem is not you. The problem is the system you're using doesn't work for the season you're in. And I am all about adapting to what real life is for us. So often we have these ideas that we feel like are the things we should be doing, but they don't work for us. And if we can just stop resisting trying to make something fit into our life that doesn't, whether that is with eating healthy, moving our body, all of these health goals that we have, I just find that that's the best way to make consistent traction. So before we dive into this, I want to quickly say what we're talking about today, creating food systems that work even when your energy changes from day to day, is something that I help clients build inside Chronic Health Coaching. If you want support creating routines around your food or your fitness or health goals that fit your real life and also help you to reach those goals for your health, you can learn more at ashleybraden.com/coaching, or you can check the link down in the show notes below. Okay, so for a long time, I thought meal planning was something that I just needed to get better at. I would try planning a full week. I've tried planning a full month, which is actually where I landed. But again, all of this is a journey. And this is what I want to encourage you by saying, where I am now is not where I started. You know, whenever I was just barely making it by because of the chronic symptoms that I had, the different diagnoses that I had to start somewhere small. And so, you know, I always keep in mind, I want to tell you guys things that helped me whenever I was at that point. At this point in time, a lot of my stuff is under control. Some of the diagnoses that I had, I don't even suffer from anymore. And so keep in mind that if you hear me say that I plan for the entire month of meals, first off, I do actually use most of these tips that I'm going to give you throughout this series still, but I have gotten to the place now where I can basically keep a 10 to 12 meal swap, or like not swap. It's usually like, I'd say 10 to 12, but actually it's more like 14 to 16 different meals for a certain season that I know we really enjoy. And I keep those ingredients, but I do just keep that as like in one big notes document on my phone. And I can have that flexibility that I need. So I just wanted to kind of tell you that up front. If you hear me saying that I go grocery shopping and I plan meals for a month, I am not creating a rigid meal plan. I am practicing these principles, but also I have gotten to the point in my health where I have a little bit more capacity. I have more energy. I actually feel better. And that is the whole point. So in that season, you know, I was trying meal planning. I was trying to pick exact meals for exact days, and that still doesn't work for me. I was telling myself, you just need to follow the plan, just stick with it. And every time I would feel kind of boxed in. You know, if I woke up already exhausted, or I didn't sleep well the night before, or I was up with a baby, I couldn't follow through with the plan. If my day went sideways, which happened a lot, I often didn't have enough time to cook what I had planned. And if I didn't follow it, then I felt like I'd failed. And what I eventually realized was this: I don't need to know what I'm cooking on Tuesday. What I need to know is what I can cook with the ingredients I have in my home whenever the day is crazy, whenever I don't have enough time, whenever I'm already wiped out, or whenever I have tons of time and I have tons of energy. So that's how that's kind of where we're going to dig in with a default meal system, which really is what I practice today. I just plan it I just have it for a month, basically. So here's the core idea. It's that you don't need a meal plan. You need a small set of default meals that you can rely on when your brain is tired. So default meals are not going to be exciting. It's not going to be you trying something new or having to go and buy, 3 or 4 random ingredients that you don't normally keep in your home. They are familiar. They're repeatable. You know your family likes them, you keep the ingredients in your home, and they don't require much thinking. This matters so much when you're dealing with things like chronic fatigue, brain fog, flares, emotional exhaustion, not sleeping, kids with specific needs or specific preferences, because your capacity and your schedule, they're just not the same every day. And so again, we have to work with your actual life. So why meal planning can often backfire for moms like us is because it assumes that your energy is going to stay consistent, that your appetite and what you want is going to stay predictable, and that nothing unexpected is going to happen in your schedule or your day. And for many of us, that's just not true. So instead of supporting you, the plan actually becomes another reason that you feel like you're failing. So what a default meal plan really is it's like these meals that you don't have to come up with on the spot. That's really the whole basis of it. They are your go-to meals that your family loves and that you can consistently cook even on hard days. They are going to use ingredients that you keep on hand. They don't require a recipe every time, or it's one of those things you've made so many times that you know the recipe by heart. They also fit different energy levels, and we're going to dig into that in just a minute of what I mean by different energy levels. They are the meals that your brain can say yes to without resistance. Because think about it. If you are already exhausted, or you're not feeling well, or your joints are achy, or whatever it is, and it comes time to cook, if you have a meal in mind on your meal plan that you don't really feel comfortable with, you don't know if anyone is going to enjoy it, you don't actually know how long it's going to take you to cook, how much resistance is your brain giving you of, we don't have the energy for this, we don't have the resources for this. And that's why you end up, ordering takeout or running into the drive-thru or whatever. So if we want to avoid that, let's create meals that your brain can easily say yes to with no problem. When we are creating default meals, we want to keep this really simple. We basically have 2 categories of default meals that is going to give you the flexibility that you need in your schedule. The first one is going to be super fast, super simple default meals. These are for days when you are just completely done. Your thinking is just not clear. You don't have the brain capacity, the brain space to do it. The day got away from you and you're out of time, or you just need to get something really quick on the table. These are things we want it to take, 15, 20 minutes or less, and they require very little effort. The second category is going to be normal default meals. These are for days when you have a little more capacity, you can handle a bit more cooking, your schedule allows you a little bit more time in the kitchen. And really, think about this. Both categories matter. It's going to give you some variety in the type of food, but it's also going to work and give you that flexibility with your schedule. Finding those easy options is so important if your goal is avoiding eating out and feeding your family healthier meals. You get to decide those meals ahead of time, knowing that while they might not be perfect, they are still a better choice for your family than if you were going to go through the drive-thru. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of practical examples of what this could look like. On a lower day, I might choose something super fast because that's what I can handle. And then on a more normal day or the weekends, I might choose something that takes a little bit longer. Now, one thing that I love to do is to cook a little bit extra on the weekends if I have the time and also the capacity, and then I use those leftovers as options for meals over the next couple of days. That gives me a little bit more of a break from cooking and then more freedom in my schedule in those next couple of days because I know we have food ready to go. And here's the key about this that makes this different than meal planning. It is not that you're deciding what to cook for each day of the week. And it's similar for me, whether we do this, whether we have default meals, like these are my default meals to go, or like I do now where I choose meals for the entire month. I am not choosing what days. I have a list of meals that I know I have ingredients for in my home, and then I get to decide what works for our schedule today, what works for my capacity today. But also, I don't expect you to start at, planning out an entire month. So we're going to talk about that too. But the focus is, again, we're keeping those ingredients on hand and then choosing from the list what you can cook. This is going to give you that freedom, the flexibility, while also preventing those last minute trips to the grocery store because you need ingredients or you just decided to grab a frozen pizza. Okay, so this is where we want to start. Choose 6 default meals. That's it, only 6. 3 that are the super fast and 3 that are the normal. And then what you will do is go ahead and sit down and write down the ingredients that each of those recipes need. Now you'll notice probably that some of the ingredients you need for different recipes overlap, and that's great. That's going to be less work for you up front. You are not locking yourself into this list forever. You are just giving yourself somewhere to start. Then you can add to the list over time. Like, this is what I've done. You can test out new recipes to see if they hit or like a hit with your family and it's something you can then add to the list, or you can just say, nope, we're not doing that again. But again, all of this is on your own terms without the pressure of thinking I have to get food on the table tonight. And what you will notice is start small with 3 super fast, 3 normal. And then from there, you will move forward and eventually be adding to the list, and you will have that long list that can cover a month like I have. One thing that I like to think about, so if I'm doing like super fast, but I want something healthy, what I tend to lean towards is something that is either like a sheet pan or crock pot or Instapot or something like that I can typically dump stuff in and just go, or walk away, or put it on a sheet pan, put it in the oven, or put it in the crock pot in the morning and then not think about it until the evening. So those are a couple of categories to think about for the super fast, because I think that can be a little bit harder to decide, just because we obviously can think of normal meals that our family loves that we have the capacity for. Another thing for me on super fast meals would be like tacos, because my family all love tacos. We also do hamburgers as well. Most of my kids like hamburgers, and I just eat a hamburger without a bun. It works great for me. So those are just a couple of ideas to help you to think, okay, what can I cook that is going to be healthier than drive-through, but also is going to give me that extra capacity? And then obviously, the normal meals that you really enjoy and that you enjoy cooking when you have that extra time. So I think just sit down, again, 3 super fast, 3 normal, write out the ingredients, and then you're going to be adding those ingredients the next time you go to the grocery store, or as you're able. If you can't do it for all 3, start with, 1 of each, 1 super fast and 1 normal. And then you just know that you have those in your pantry ready to go when you need them. And again, this is going to take time. It's building it all over time. So, last week we talked about pantry staples, and this week we're talking about default meals. And together they really are doing the same thing, because you have those pantry staples for the days when you don't know what you want to cook, or maybe the default meals you have don't sound great. You can pull something from the pantry staples. But then also you have these default meals to fall back on whenever you need something quick, or whenever you need something that is going to be a hit that you don't have to think about or do a bunch of extra work. The goal with both of these ideas is to reduce how much thinking you have to do, how much deciding you have to do when it comes to making meals. So next week, we're going to be talking about why these systems sometimes stop working, even whenever they were helping before. And then how a simple seasonal reset can help make eating at home feel easier again. Now, remember, you don't need perfect meals. You do not need a perfect plan. You just need food options that you can rely on when you do not have the capacity to think or to decide. So that is what the goal is for this system. And that is all for this episode. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I'll see you back next time.
Hey friend, I hope you found today's episode helpful. If you did, would you take a minute to share it with another mom who's struggling with chronic symptoms? And leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It means the world to me to know this podcast is making a difference for you. All right, it's time for me to go tackle those snack requests, and remember that a short walk, even if the kids turn it into a race, still counts as self-care. Keep chasing those little wins. Even when it feels messy, you're making progress. The information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. I'm not a doctor, and this podcast is not intended to treat or diagnose any condition. You're the expert on your body. Listen to it and reach out to a trusted provider for support.